Happy Thursday. It's a beautiful day out. Let's talk about a lot of things. One of the main things on my mind this morning is toxicity. And so, how many of you guys have had toxic people, toxic events, toxic whatever in your life? Because what I'm going to talk about is when I talk about insulin resistance, which is I'm just going to put that up because I kind of need it right now. When we have toxic events in our life, people, stresses, all of that, it causes us to have higher levels of cortisol. And that higher level, I can't find the picture. There it is. Let's do that. When we have those higher levels of cortisol, it's actually causing an increase in insulin resistance. So, interesting thing, right? So, this is just on my mind. So, I want to talk about it this morning. Be careful of life. Make sure you're getting sleep. Make sure you're getting rest. Make sure you have some peace. As we see insulin resistance growing in the world, I'm always talking about the dietary intake, right? That's important that we're not getting the proper foods, we're not getting the proper nutrients, we're eating too much of some things, we're not eating some of the right other things. But what I don't talk about often enough, and many of us do not, and we should, is that those cortisol levels driven by stress have everything to do with your insulin resistance and your insulin receptors as well. So today, let's talk a little bit about that. Like I said, make sure you're getting rest. Make sure you're doing meditation or finding peace in your life, whatever that looks like for you, and understand that the more you live a high stress lifestyle, the more you allow. So we talk about ingesting food, right? That is imperfect for us. And everybody says go keto. I'm going to really go off the rails today, you guys. But everybody says go keto and get rid of that toxic stuff out of your diet. But whoever tells you to get the toxic situations, people, and events out of your life, because those are driving insulin resistance just as much. I will find the studies and quote them and do a video later on it. But right now, just know that the more stress you're under, the more you have this negativity in your life, the more likely you are to be insulin resistant. And again, it's not something that everybody talks about, but I think it's something worth looking at because like we're never going to get like that toxic boss completely out of our life or the commute out of our life unless we decide to change what we're doing or change our job or whatever. But the people who we allow into our life, we need to be very protective of that as well on every level as much as we can, because those stresses that they cause, that can help exacerbate your insulin resistance. So there's that little point this morning. Now, with all of that said, how many of you guys are living with way too much stress in your life? I think we all do, even when we don't like to look at it that way. How many of you guys have a stressful job, a family that needs stuff from you all the time, and you're just constantly going, constantly running, never stopping to think about yourself and your health and your needs in life? Because I think most of us live a life like that we're so busy trying to take care of everyone else, trying to do what everyone else wants, trying to be what everyone else wants, that we forget to take care of ourselves. And that really is where this is all going to start. So the food aside, all the other stuff aside, if you guys, and it's this is me included, right? If we don't stop to start understanding that our the one best investment we can make in life, in our time, for our families, for anything, is to take care of us. So, all right, you guys, where's everybody hopping in from? I know I'm kind of in a weird thing today, but it's just what it is with Misha, Um, because well, so actually, I'm just gonna say it. So obviously that came up because there have been some situations in my life, and thankfully, as I prayed about it and said, "What am I going to do with this?" it resolved itself, and that's amazing. Michigan, you know what? I have not been to Michigan for a long time. And South Africa, welcome, Kayla. That's amazing. South Africa, how is everything there? All the way across the world from here. And Michigan, is it getting cold up there yet? Because it changed drastically here in Baltimore, or just I'm above Baltimore, but in Maryland the last few days, and it's just kind of crazy. I know it's fall time and I know it's after Halloween, but I don't think I was ready. I thought I was. Yeah, snow on Halloween. So there, I was talking to my daughter about that, and I remember because she still is back in Washington State, and I remember having snow on Halloween almost every Halloween. Like it would be good up until Halloween night, and then it would snow. And up in North Idaho, our costumes, our trick or treat costumes, we always had to make sure it was something that we could layer up because it's going to be a freezing cold night. So I hope that you're weathering that well. Are you ready for the winter weather? And how many of you guys are ready for Christmas? I saw somebody put their Christmas tree up already, and that's fine because she's in joy, right? She loves Christmas and she's ready to invite that joy in. But how many of you guys are ready for that, for Thanksgiving, for the holidays coming up? I haven't even really thought about them, to be honest. I just am like running along with the pace of life as it comes. So, all right, let's talk about insulin resistance, you guys. If you have questions, you're from Cape Town. Hi, Allison from Cape Town. Amazing to have you here today. One day I'm going to get to that side of the world and travel and see some more parts of the world. But Africa is definitely the whole continent. I have never been there, or any of those, like Europe and whatnot. I've been, but it has always been, I've always wanted to come to Africa and explore. So I guess I'll have to do that soon. All right. Yeah, this time of year did come really fast. Like yesterday I was out walking. I have a light like fall jacket. It went from the fall jacket is too heavy and hot. Like it's just a light jacket to this fall. This jacket's just not warm enough. Like in 2 days. So I think I'm gonna have to go. And when I moved from Washington State, I think most of my extreme winter gear got left back there. So I'm gonna have to go find a new winter coat because it's getting cold. In fact, I kind of laugh because I love my kids, but sometimes they all think they know better. But I was talking to a young man who's been in this area all his life, and we haven't. And he said it's going to be a hard winter here based on all the things that he's seeing. So interesting. I just think I need to go get a jacket. Okay, guys. So when we talk about insulin resistance, you don't want to think about. Okay, Allison on Facebook says South Africa is a wonderful country, and she doesn't want to think about Christmas. It's too soon. Yeah, I have so much to go on. I was so happy last year to put a Christmas tree up in my home, but I'm actually probably going to be moving, and so I think Christmas decorations are just going to get condensed, boxed up, and ready to go. So it's my life. I'm always on the go. So remember I was talking about stress. Wow, do I invite stress into my life? Okay, guys, let's talk about insulin resistance. Because really what I want to do is everybody understand why most of us are getting sick, give you some solutions to help overcome it, and hopefully help change your lives for the better. So I do a specific protocol that worked for me when nothing else did, and that's what changed my life. So hold on, because I'm going to go over that. If you choose to dive into that protocol, hallelujah, great for you. And if you choose to try and do it other ways, I'm all about that too. Just let's understand what's happening and get better. Can we agree on that? So you guys, insulin resistance, like I was talking about earlier, how many of you guys understand what insulin resistance is and what it's connected to and why it's so important? Why are so many people talking about insulin resistance now? And can anybody tell me, number one, do you know where insulin resistance comes from? Let's deal with that because I tend to throw out way too much at once. Does anybody know why this thing of insulin resistance is coming up? Hey, Bonnie, good morning. Where are you coming in from, Bonnie? So far, we have South Africa, Cape Town, and Michigan. I know there's more of you out there, but you just haven't spoke up. I'm sorry. Yeah. And I'm in Maryland. I love the state. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I'm from the West Coast. So Indianapolis, Indiana. Amazing. Is it cold and snowy there too? Hey, Oakley, user 6854. Okay, guys. So insulin resistance is really, let's talk about what insulin resistance is. Then we can talk about what's causing it, why we're hearing about it so much, and then I'll tell you how you can get over it. Hey, in Liverpool. Yeah, yeah. And what's the weather like up in Liverpool right now? That's another. I've only been in England on layovers on flights, and I wanted to get off the plane, but I'm so afraid like having to go through airport security and missing my next plane that I just never have. But it's a trip I want to make. So heavy rain. Oh, I love rain, but this is kind of cold for rain right now. All right, back to insulin resistance. I love you guys. Thanks for talking and letting me know where you're from. I always like to know. So insulin resistance, let's break it down. And so the terms are not going to be perfect because I just want to make it understandable. So what happens when we eat? The bottom line is food is just energy for our system. We all understand that, right? Food is not a reward. Food, I mean, it can be, but at the very basis, our food is nourishment and energy for our system. How that happens is when we eat and we start to digest, the food gets broken down and the pieces of the food come out and they start to get delivered to the body. One of the main components of all food is energy. That breaks down to a sugar in the bloodstream. But when we're eating and we have more than 1 teaspoon of sugar in the bloodstream, the body cues an organ called the pancreas to put out this hormone called insulin. Now, insulin is, I'm going to talk about insulin in a couple of different ways. Number one, it's a transporter. Insulin, so in normal levels, insulin is a fantastic hormone to have in the body. This is why type 1 diabetics are so sick, because they can't produce it. The rest of us that are sick are because we're producing too much of it. So insulin takes that energy that's been broken down because we just ate and delivers it to every single cell of body, including your brain cells. Kayla says she understands what it is. She replaced a lack of maternal love with sugar and has struggled with sugar addiction her whole life. Okay, so Kayla, we're going to go over, I'm going to give you guys 6 simple ways to help overcome that here in just a little bit. So hang out with me and we're going to talk about that. But now when we have this insulin and it's delivering energy to our body, and so it's not just the sugar, it's not just the bread and the cake and all of that. All of our food is getting broken down into this sugar too quickly. And so I'm going to talk about macros here in just a minute and what our foods are. But when that happens, then the insulin has to come up to a higher level in the body. Basically, we're going to think about it that way, to take all of this sugar and get it delivered out. And then we're eating again. Our sugar drops. We're eating all this food that's just continually turning rapidly into sugar in the body. Now we have high levels of insulin all the time. That's called hyperinsulinemia. When we have that high level of insulin for a long time, it becomes insulin resistance. Because it's what's happening now is we have so much insulin in the body all the time that the cells are like, I don't want you anymore. So now we're going to think about insulin like a key, because once it gets the sugar to the cell, what it's really doing is unlocking the cell to allow the energy in. But because there's so much of it, it's like the key has gotten rusty and now it can't open the lock and the cells are not getting the energy. That's insulin resistance. So when your muscle cells aren't getting energy, you're losing muscle. When your bones and the cells that build your bones are not getting energy, you're losing bone density. When your tissues that lubricate your joints and hold them together are not getting energy, they're getting weak and fragile, and you're starting to have things like meniscal tears and thinning of your meniscus. When we have that going on in our heart, it doesn't act properly. We have problems with blood pressure through a number of ways from this. We have problems with our gut. Now our gut isn't functioning properly. There's some nerve damage, and the gut just can't empty properly, and it's not digesting properly. You end up with IBS and Crohn's and all these other things. So it's wide sweeping. Everything on this list up here is linked to insulin resistance, and it all comes down to food that we're eating too quickly, too much, and that turns into sugar or energy too quickly. So now, when I said macros, what I want you guys to understand, macros just means the big nutrients in our food. When we look at that, micros, like, I didn't understand this a long time ago either, you guys, so it's all right. So micros are all the little like vitamins, minerals, enzymes, all of that stuff. The macros, there's only 3 of them, and it's protein, and it's fats, and it's carbohydrates. So when we talk about sugar, because people think, oh, it's just refined sugar. Yes, getting rid of or slowing down refined sugar in your system is absolutely going to help. But what we're not looking at is then, if that's the only key, why is it that I've dealt with so many vegetarians and pescatarians who buy everything from the Whole Foods market, don't use sugar, don't have a lot of bread or any bread, many of them, and yet they're still sick? And that with the protocol that I do, they still have had improvements in their health, because vegetables and fruits are also carbohydrates. So think about it like this. If it's not a protein and it's not a fat, it is a carbohydrate. Now, there's some things that are both protein and carbohydrate, but primarily that's how I want you to think about it. If you wouldn't classify it as a protein or a fat, then you're going to classify it as a carbohydrate. Those have been modified in our food as well. And it's not just the boxed, canned, bagged, frozen, whatever food. It's the stuff that you go to the produce aisle and pick up. It's been changed. So there's a reason that our peaches used to be the size of this and are now bigger than my fist, because we've stripped out fibers from our food. And so when we're looking at carbohydrates in nature, and we take a look at fruits and vegetables, and we also now understand that they've modified them so much. How do you guys understand that our foods are almost double in size of what they used to be? I remember when they started making grapefruits bigger and bigger. At first, the skin was really thick, and then as they continued to modify it, the skin thinned, and the meat inside started getting bigger. But they've been playing with our food for a long time to make it bigger, because especially here in America, bigger is better. So how do they do that, though? What they're doing is they're stripping out things like proteins, enzymes, fibers. Fibers is key, and that stripping out of the fiber is what's causing us to be sick. So when we have fiber, carbohydrates and fiber go together hand in hand. So whenever you have a carbohydrate, you should have a fiber. The fiber slows down the carbohydrate from hitting that sugar in your system and creating that spike. When you have fats, you should have, or when you have protein, you should have fats. And I'm going to break that down a little bit later. But just know that every time you have a carbohydrate, or anything really that's converting into glucose in your system, you should have fiber in to help slow that down and protect you from high insulin spikes, which come from high sugar spikes. All right. So fiber is key. We all understand fiber is key. Fiber is what's been missing from our diet. It's really, so there's like, I did keto for years, didn't understand this part. I wasn't getting better. Okay. So Bonnie, I don't snack. And I'm going to tell you about the protocol, because I can't get in enough fiber. So I supplement. And the reason I supplement is that it's been scientifically designed to give me the exact fibers that I need to help my body deal with the foods that I'm about to eat. So let's talk about the food order you're going to eat first. And then, so you guys can jot this down. Also, I have an ebook that's free, a free gift from me to you guys. If you just go to my link up here, I'll drop it in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. What I did was click on the book and not on the... All right. I want to close that down. Hang on a second. So you can get that free ebook, and that's just going to give you all of these steps that I'm going to talk about. Welcome to my world. Okay, so let's get this link over here. So this free ebook, if you guys go to my profile up top, click on the bottom again when it opens up, or go there after the live, you'll see in the link below my picture that there's a place to order this, to download this ebook. This ebook has this in it. You want to eat fiber first before you eat, every time you eat, right? So I want to talk about the surgery in a minute too. So fiber first, okay? Then you want to get protein in, and I'll tell you guys why all these steps in just a second. But so fiber, protein, and then fats. When you look at your plate, I don't care if there's carbohydrates on it, and when that's the order you want to eat in, and then save those carbohydrates. So like the bread that we fill up on first, the potatoes, all the stuff that we've always been like taught to eat first and save the protein for last, that's the wrong order. There's an importance to that too. So fiber, protein, fats, and then carbohydrates. That's the first 4 steps. The next 2 steps are, I want you to understand that we need to stop eating so much. So no snacking. We're going to do some intermittent fasting. And this is where people are like, thank you, Bonnie. This is where people are like, whoa, you lost me here. But I'm going to explain why this fasting lifestyle can be so easy. And fasting is a scary word for people. It just means we're not eating for a few hours. So on a normal day, I fast for 16 hours. I had an amazing Indian food dinner with my family last night about 6 o'clock. So at 6 this morning, guess what? I've already been fasting for 12 hours, right? Now it's 8:30. I've been fasting for 14 and a half hours. By the time I'm done with this live, I'll have been fasting for 15 hours. I wait 1 more hour and I'm 16 hours in to fast. Good, I can have a meal, okay? We're going to go over that. The last tip is, I want you guys to understand that movement is important. It doesn't have to be crazy exercise. You don't have to run to the gym and do hours of cardio. You don't have to do all of that. Light bearing exercise and do some movement, whether it's walking, dancing, whatever, but move every day, and move within 10 minutes after you eat. Don't go lay down. Don't go sit down. 25 to 30% of your body is muscle. Muscle is highly insulin sensitive when it's moving. When we're sitting, like I am now, and I do most of the day, we're not really using a lot of energy. So in this sit down in front of a screen world we need to be cognizant of getting up and taking a walk a couple of times a day. I need to put in my recommendations page. I'm going to stop and ask a question. There are some qigong movements that I do that are very simple, very gentle, but they get energy moving in the body, which is going to help with insulin sensitivity. If I know somebody else has asked me for this before, so if I add that to my recommendations page, some links to some that you guys can do, like right in your own home, no matter what your fitness level is, would that be helpful to you guys? They're not my videos; they're just ones that I tend to watch, and like when I'm busy, if I don't have time to get out and do other stuff, like I'll stop and do, this 5 or 10 minutes of qigong movement in my living room. So if you guys are interested in me adding that to my recommendations page, which is not a cost, it's just, okay, great. I will add that in. Let me make a note so I don't forget, because I think that would be a great resource for everybody. When I talk about movement, people are like, oh my gosh, she wants me to go to the gym and she wants me to do 30 minutes of cardio, and I'm not one of those people. No, there's one of the things I do too every morning after I'm done with my live stream, after I'm done with my morning meal, is I go for a walk out in nature. Please get outside, get some sunshine if you're in an area that you can do that. Not everyone is, I get it. So those are the 6 things: fiber, protein, fats, limit your carbohydrates, do some intermittent fasting, and move your body. Now, why each one of those? We've already discussed how important fiber is. In fact, the doctor just recently said in a podcast or a vlog on YouTube that if he had to name one nutrient that he felt is not getting enough attention and yet can impact our health the greatest, he said it was fiber. So I talked about supplementing, and I'm going to go over the protocol in a second. But the amount of fiber that's in this packet, he said would, and he wasn't talking about this packet, but he was talking about this. Metamucil, Bonnie, is 2 types of fiber, and they're not designed to reduce your insulin. So I'll tell you about Metamucil. Two stories about Metamucil right now. Okay. So I've had people who did our protocol and then we're like, you know what, I'm just going to do Metamucil, and because I'm listening to all the guys on the internet, I'm going to do all that. Within a couple of months, they're coming back to me going, Misha, it didn't work. My blood sugars went back up. I'm having problems. I need to get back on system. Can you help me get back started on the protocol? And I'm like, absolutely. Look, we all have doubts. We all do whatever. We got to figure it out on our own. Then I have another client was doing the system, the protocol. Her husband was taking Metamucil, and he was like, no, what you're doing is crazy. I'm just going to keep doing my Metamucil. He ran out of Metamucil one day, so she packed some of this in his lunchbox to take with him. He took this, and on day one, not believing in the protocol, he came home and told his wife, that's crazy. I could tell the difference immediately. And he'd been using Metamucil for years. He will not buy Metamucil again now, because now that he understands what a scientifically designed fiber that's really made to do this work, how different that feels in his body and the difference it made in his energy and his gastrointestinal system and has continued to make, he will never go back to Metamucil. So we'll talk about the protocol in just a second, I promise. But that's it. Fiber first. Now I have this packet 10 minutes before I eat every time I eat. Why? So we'll just talk it now. Why do I do this before I eat every time I eat? And why is this scientist saying that this amount of fiber can increase your longevity by 10 to 15 years? Because there's a lot of illness that goes on in our gut when we're not getting the right prebiotics, the things that feed our probiotics. So many people are so concerned with taking probiotics, and yet they're not making sure that they're feeding their own probiotics. You guys know you have your own probiotics in your body. We're just not feeding them. When we feed them, they will grow more naturally in the body, and there's not the need for all the excess stuff, right? If you're still having issues because you have certain health things, take them. But this helps feed. So now 10 minutes before I drink this, I put it in about this much water, mix it up, drink it down, wait 10 minutes, have my meal. Why? Because the fibers in this are soluble and insoluble. So they're going to thicken up and create like a gel matrix in the bottom of your gut. When that happens, then it's not only soothe gut. So if you have an acidic gut because it's out of really bad like I had, it's going to help to calm those acids down. It's going to help to soothe all of that in your gut, and you're going to just start to feel better there. But now when that matrix thickens up, now it's starting to fill your gut up a little bit, so that constant hunger that you're having, it's starting to slow down. Now you're going to notice that you eat less when you do sit down because you're starting to feel full quicker. Okay. Now, not only that, but when that matrix is sitting in the bottom, I want you guys to think of it like a prophylactic. So it's, sorry for the graphicness, but I heard somebody say this the other day and it cracked me up. The fiber that we're using is like a condom for sugar. So it's protecting us from that sugar. What it's doing is it's when it gets into this thick gel matrix, and Metamucil, Benefiber don't create that. They're kind of watery. When it gets in there, it really coats that food and starts to slow down how quickly it's delivering into your system. So now you're not having a blood sugar spike because the food's not converting into sugar so quickly. It allows the blood sugar spike to stay low and normal, which means the insulin doesn't have to go up as high, which means that's down lower. And then that means the insulin can come down quicker. And why is that all important? Because we're going to go over that in a second. So it fills me up first. It slows down the delivery of sugars into my system. But because it's that thick gel and it's moving through my system slower, I stay full longer. How many of you guys have eaten a meal and been like, oh, I'm so full, I couldn't eat another bite. And then a half an hour later, you're like, where's the dessert? I need some chips. I need whatever. That's because food is passing through us too quickly because we don't have fiber to slow it down. See, Bonnie says that's her. Katie says that's her. I know that was me. Like, you guys, I would have days where, especially like Thanksgiving's coming up here in the US, But we would have these days where like that, where we eat and it's like, oh, I'm so full, my pants don't fit. Like, you know, you see the guys like unbuckling their pants and all of that, and they're like, I just need room. And then yet that just burns through so quickly. You're like, where's the pie? I need some pie. I need some chips. Where's those crackers and cheese you had? And that's what's happening to us. The food is cycling through our body too quickly. Fiber slows that process down so that we're not having those issues. That's why this fiber works. Things like benefiber and metamucil are primarily designed to move food through your system, not help you retain the food and that deliver slower. So there are every fiber in every food has a different reaction in our body. What's in this is 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers that have been put there because they've been scientifically proven, 20 years of studies. I was going to say Metamucil doesn't have studies like that, but there's studies that show that this does what I'm saying it does. In fact, there's studies that show it reduces a blood sugar spike with just one packet by 27%. So why is that blood sugar spike, besides the fact that we're eliciting insulin, so important? What I want you to understand is that, good morning, Janice, that insulin, when it goes up high, it takes a long time for it to come down. It takes about 8 hours for insulin to come down when we've spiked it really high. So now let's take another step back, because why is that important? That's important because insulin blocks fat breakdown, insulin blocks fat burning, insulin encourages fat storage. Okay, so as long as insulin is in your system, you're not burning fat. Okay, you may be losing muscle, you may be losing a number of other tissues, but you're not burning fat for fuel. So we need the insulin to stay low so it can drop down and kind of go to sleep at some point. And then its component hormone, because remember, everything in life is a balance, night and day, yin and yang, white and black, whatever. So the component to insulin that balances it is glucagon. When glucagon comes out, it loves to burn fat. It loves to eat up junk cells. It loves to clean up the body. So we're constantly in an insulin or sugar-fed state. We're never having that cleanup go on in our body. We're never having all of those actions happen, and we're just continually running on sugar, more cravings, more illness, more of the fat that none of us want, and we're getting sick. We have to allow the insulin to come down. So the importance of this is in regulating that blood sugar spike so that our insulin doesn't go out. The protocol, by the way, you guys can get it in my profile option, and I will put a link over on this other channels. If you go there and you open up the link, let's take a look at that real quick. If you open up my profile, you'll see 2 red light symbols. And those red light symbols right under them is a link. Click on the where you order the protocols right on the top of that. So it's not just the fiber. There's the tea that I drink in the morning. It's what I've been sipping on. This tea shuts down my hunger, gives me mental clarity and energy, allows me to burn fat for fuel, and keeps me satiated for those hours when I'm like I said, I'll be at 15 hours here in just a little bit of not eating. So that means I'll be ready to eat in an hour. Easy peasy. I made it through 16 hours of fast, and I've allowed my body to do these things. After 8 hours, when the insulin levels finally start to come down, it takes a couple of hours before glucagon comes out. That means 10 hours. We passed that point already for me, right? So now glucagon, that amazing hormone that we need to come out to burn fat and do all this stuff, is starting to activate in my body. But it takes a couple of hours for the body to go, okay, there's glucagon out. Let's deal with this. Your gut starts to reset and starts to be able, like, okay, I can clean up a little bit. Let's get rid of some of this junk. Your body starts to kick out human growth hormone. It starts to kick out ketones, which are little messengers that tell us to burn fat for fuel, because now we've gotten rid of this fuel from food out of our body. So now the body can be like, oh, we have this excess fat. Let's burn it up. That's where we're going to get our fuel source from. So when you're burning fat for fuel, you're not having energy crashes. You're not having brain fog. You're not having any of those things. You're actually feeling better than you've ever felt, and you're not feeling hungry during this time. That fat burning really kicks up at about hour 14, so I'm there now. Right now, for me, because I've been fasting more than 14 hours, I'm in a state of where my body's starting to utilize some of that fat for fuel. And then at hour 16, we break that. We've had a couple hours of good fasting and we start to eat. And now we've allowed our body to start learning to run on something besides sugar. You guys all understand that every action in our body is trained. So when an athlete goes to the gym and he trains and he does the same thing over and over and over again, a basketball player goes in and he shoots hoops all the time, over and over and over again. He's training his body to have muscle memory. He's training his body to do something repetitively, and that's how he gets good at it. We have been in a system where we're training our body to live off of insulin, and that's why we're getting sick. We need to train our bodies to understand that it can switch between running on sugar or insulin and fat or glucagon. So we're either running on one or the other. But right now, we've trained ourselves to live off of insulin so much that we're never allowing ourselves to use fat for fuel. When we do this process for a little while, the body goes, okay, this is normal. This is what I'm supposed to do. Now I'll burn sugar when they're eating. When they're not eating, I'm going to allow the insulin levels to come down because I'm not scared they're going to shove more food in the face. And I'm going to start allowing this fat burning and the cellular turnover to happen. Does that make sense? Because it's actually, sometimes I make it too complicated, but that's all it is. We just need to get the insulin down so that we can go to the other side. It's like you cannot get up and just run all day long and never sit down and rest, never go take never sleep, never do any of those things. If you just got up and ran all day long, how long would your body last? Yet that's what we're doing to our bodies when we're continually inundating it with food, eating every 2 hours, eating foods that are modified. So you guys, we're going to take something off the plate, right? So we can all agree that we all may be able to do better. Thank you, Allison. Allison said it's fascinating. So we all agree that we could do better with our food choices. I know I could. We all agree that in today's modern environment, for most of us, it's really hard to make the best choices all the time. Okay. But now, if you understand that the food that we're given is imperfect and it's causing the illness, and then we're being told by a food industry to eat every 2 hours, to snack, to, hey, we created this great protein snack, have that between meals. What they're really telling you is to eat more of their food because you don't need it. You don't need it. So now we have that environment. But is it all your fault? If the messaging all around you tells you to eat every 2 hours, if the food that's being delivered to you is imperfect, is it all your fault? Because when you go to the doctor, how many of you guys have heard, if you just ate better, if you just lost weight, if you just, calories in, calories out, you would feel better, you would do better. It's all your fault. You don't care enough. You're not trying hard enough. And the whole reason you're sick is basically you. So change that. Lose some weight, you'll feel better. Stop eating so much, you'll feel better. Stop being so lazy, you'll feel better. But what's happening is when we eat this food, it's causing us to be tired. It's causing us to be sick. It's causing us to crave more because things like fiber have been stripped out. So Wegovy and Ozempic and Mounjaro and all those things are not going to fix that. I was really scared last night. I saw 2 doctors talking. One doctor was appalled. The other doctor was like, yeah, well, we're kind of at this point where 93% of us have metabolic disorder. We're all heavy. We're all having problems. So yeah, the best thing for society is just give them all a shot so they can lose weight. Let's not talk about the food industry. Let's not talk about the food we're eating or that we're telling people to eat too often or that we're not giving them a way to make it sustainable. Let's just give them a shot. That, by the way, I have an article pulled up. There's a law firm who's doing a lawsuit on those drugs for the problems it causes with the gallbladder. I've lost mine. I never took those drugs. But man, So you have insulin resistance, your gallbladder is already at risk. Now they're telling you to take a drug that could potentially cost you your gallbladder. So what? So you lose your gallbladder. Well, now you can't digest food properly. Now you have this thing called the gastritis that's extremely painful. Now your life has changed forever and it causes you to be more susceptible to insulin resistance. Is it worth the risk? I don't think so. Like, why? Why? So Allison says, try not to eat after 7 in the evening and not before 8 in the morning. But your big but, if I don't eat within a few hours, I get a mean attack of shaking, lightheaded. So that's a great, Allison, let's talk about that. I'm sorry. I get really excited when you guys say stuff that I can like explain and hopefully help you. So does anybody want to know why you get this this attack of being hungry, why you get lightheaded and feel weak if you're not eating? It all goes back to, I want you to think about what we just talked about, how we're training our body. We're training our body to use insulin or sugar for fuel, right? Instead of allowing it to switch between insulin and glucagon, fat storing and fat burning. So what's happening is you're stuck in a fat storing state. You're stuck with an insulin level that's high. You've trained it to be high because the foods that we're given are causing this spike. And then you're eating every couple of hours because you're feeling lightheaded and shitty and whatnot. So now you're just spiking that sugar again, which tells the insulin, yep, I got to stay up here because she's just going to eat again. And so I've got to be here to take care of that sugar when she does eat. Wow, right? So how do you overcome that? How do you and then, so let's see, what happens is your sugar levels go up, you've eaten, you've taken care of it, but your insulin level is so high, chronically high, that it's like, yep, I see you, sugar. And it takes that sugar and it starts delivering it anywhere it can. Most cells are sick of taking it in, so it's storing it in your fat cells. But it does it so quickly because there's so much insulin in your system. And now it's trained to know what to do. Those cells aren't going to take it. Those cells aren't going to take it. I'm going to run over here to the fat cells. I'm going to shove it in there. Okay. Now your blood sugar level drops. Okay. So because the insulin has done its job and delivered it. Because instead of starting at baseline where the insulin's not out, the sugar level goes up. The body says, oh, hey, we need to take care of that. The body starts to produce insulin. The insulin starts to come up and take this sugar and deliver it. The insulin's already high. So you eat sugar, insulin grabs it right away, takes it out. Now you have a blood sugar drop. You feel lightheaded, you feel shaky, you feel cranky. That's what they're talking about, hangry. It has not so much to do with the intermittent fasting as the fact that your body's trained to need sugar like an addict needs his drug. Okay? It's a drug, basically. So how you're going to start to overcome that. If on the protocol, if you guys don't feel like you can do the 16 hours at first, that's fine. Do 12 hours. Stay where you're at and then start to extend that. Start to use the fiber first, which is going to slow down those blood sugar spikes. It's going to allow the delivery of the sugar into your system so that it's not causing those spikes, and it's allowing you to slow down the food as it hits your system. And then you're not having those blood sugar spikes and lows. And then as that's happening and your body's like, oh, okay, I don't have to live off of sugar all the time, then you can start to extend that fasting state. In the meantime, you use the fiber to help you start to extend that till you get to that healthy state where you're fasting about 16 hours. So yes, if you're having blood sugar highs and lows, check with your doctor. What Dr. Bickman says, I have so many books sitting over here, you guys, it's insane. My house is this house of books. Okay. So Dr. Bickman wrote this book, Why We Get Sick, and he talked about this very thing in his book. What he will say is your blood sugars can drop to about 60 and you're still fine as long as you're not feeling like you're going to pass out, you're not feeling like you're going to fall over, you're not having that dizziness, all of that. So my blood sugars when I'm fasting will normally drop to about 60, which is great because what it means is that my body's getting better at utilizing the sugar. So it drops to 60, but now my body is understanding how this whole cycle works. So when I wear a glucose monitor, I can watch those sugars go spike up to about 120. Now I have energy for my body. Where did that sugar come from if I'm not eating? It came from my fat. Now, as my body starts to utilize that, my blood sugars drop back down to about 60. When it gets to about 60, my body's like, oh, hey, we need some more energy. So it starts burning more fat. My blood sugars come up to about 120. Now I have more energy. And then it's just this nice little cycle of rise and fall. Your body is meant to do that, but it can't do that because it's not trained to do that. So Louise, thank you so much. Because look, I used to work for doctors. I worked in a clinic where we dealt with hormones. I worked in urgent cares. I worked in allergy clinics. And one of the, if not diagnosed on diabetes, go to endo. That's great. But how about this? Angel Kitty, I'm going to invite you to, I'm never going to tell people not to check with their doctor, but I want you to understand something. If we have a disease that's born by food, exactly, Louise. So I'm sorry, you guys were here. There's this little thing going on. I'm going to read comments for these people over on Facebook and YouTube. So Angel Kitty said, always ask docs. Louise said, they don't know. Angel said, if not diagnosed on diabetes, go to endo. Louise says she's a nurse. Not even endos know how to manage it. They just give more insulin. Amazing. Let's talk about that. And this is true. I went to endocrinologists. I went to, and like I was having Hashimoto's, nobody could explain it. The doctors were actually frustrated at me. And I'm just like, doc, I'm sick. I just want to know. I worked for doctors. I had one doctor, we ran all panels. And I went in one day and she goes, I got your panels back. This is what's happening. You have this metabolic type. There's nothing I can do to help you. Okay. So let's take it another step back. Insulin resistance is a disease born of food. Is insulin food? Now, when they give you more insulin, I'm just challenging you to use some critical thinking here. Okay. So if we have a disease that's too much insulin in the body, that's what's causing the problem, because the keys now rust and won't work on the cells. Does increasing the insulin either by injecting it or by giving yourself these GLP-1 drugs that are forcing your body to create more insulin, is that really the answer? Because are you creating more insulin resistance? Okay. So Angela, let's talk about that. So yes, I primarily talk about type 2. So here's the thing. I'm going to pull up an 11-year-old who has type 1. There's so many other type 1s that I could pull up, but this is an 11-year-old. I love this one because not only is he a child, he's a type 1. He's almost gotten rid of his fast-acting insulin, and his load of long-acting insulin has been reduced by more than 40%. He's lost weight. He's got his mental clarity back. His moods are back. He's a wonderful young man. I was able to meet him. Okay, so let's take a look at this kid. Let me flip my camera around and show you guys. Okay, so this young man at 11 years old, now he's a type 1 diabetic, so like you, he cannot produce insulin, right? There's a difference between the body being able to produce insulin and the body not being able to produce insulin. So if you can produce insulin and it's just a disease of too much, that's one thing. But when your body can't produce it, you have to inject it. I understand that, right? But what's happening is, and why you're acting like a type 2, is because, again, it comes down to the food. Now you're eating food that's turning to sugar, because this part doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter whether you're type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic, type 3 diabetic, LADA, any of that. Your food is converting into sugar too quickly. Now your pump is having to be keyed up high because you're needing insulin, because the food is turning into sugar too quickly. What this does is slows down the delivery of that food. Now you can turn your pump down. Now you're needing less insulin. Now you don't have to have all of that happening. So how good are you at watching your carbs? So I have people who are doing the system who do less than 20 grams of carbs a day. That's amazing for them. I have people who are like, I just don't know that I can live like that. So I still have, last night we had, and I did not have a blood sugar spike, and I did not have any problems. And I check my numbers, and I check my skin, and I check a number of things every day to understand that I'm still managing it. But I live a real life. I don't have a life that says I can only eat 20 grams of carbs a day. Like, if you want to do that, and that, like, would I probably lose more weight? Maybe. But am I healthy? Am I happy where I'm at? Last night we had butter chicken. We had a curry chicken. We had this amazing, I cannot say the name right, but it's a fried spinach, which is my favorite thing in the world. That dish I would rather have than just about anything else right now. But we also had naan. So we had some stuffed with dried fruits, and we had some garlic naan. That's carbs, right? Right? Even the spinach, by the way, is carbs. I don't normally do it. My daughter had gone to a cup bakery, and she got some cupcakes, and she, bless her soul, got me this chocolate mint cupcake. So after going outside and moving, I took my grandson outside after dinner. We had a sword fight for about a half an hour, running around his backyard at 59, a woman who had a walker and a cane and couldn't go up and down stairs 2.5 years ago. I'm running through the backyard having a sword fight with my grandson. We came in. He wanted his cupcake, and he wanted me to have mine. So guess what? I just have more fiber. I have the cupcake. The fiber slows down the carbohydrates, but I can live like that. I'm now no longer in the state of, oh my God, if I go to a wedding, I have to avoid everything, or I don't want to go out with my friends because they're going to go to a place that has all kinds of food that I can't eat, or they're not going to want to invite me over because they don't know what to make for me because I'm keto. No, this is real, sustainable, and this is the problem of what's wrong with us, is that our food has been changed so much that we're not getting fiber in, and this takes care of that, and it helps regulate those carbohydrates that you're talking about, Angela. So, type 1 diabetic, youth, all right? So he lost 35 pounds at 11 years of age. His moods are better, like I said. His insulin load is less, and his mom was so impressed. She's on the system, her husband's on the system, and his sister, who is having behavioral issues, is on the system, even though she's not overweight, because mom started to understand that insulin resistance is about more than weight. Insulin resistance is about more than type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is about so much more. So when I talk about that, I'm going to show you something real quick. Whoops, wrong slide. I want to go here. All right. So all of these things, you guys, are linked to insulin resistance. So it's not just type 2 diabetes. It's not just type 1 diabetes. There's strokes, PCOS, erectile dysfunction, migraines, fibromyalgia, high blood pressure, childhood obesity, fatty liver, muscle loss, arthritis. All of those things, Alzheimer's and more, are linked to this thing of our food turning into sugar too quickly. So you can do one of two things. We're going to talk about this now. Well, first, I want to show you all of this stuff. You guys can screenshot it if you need to. All of these are linked to insulin resistance as well. So yes, we already mentioned Alzheimer's, but like Parkinson's, autism are linked as well. Anxiety, depression, panic attacks. So tinnitus, vertigo, Meniere's disease, all the heart disorders, unless it's genetic or viral, it's likely linked to the food you eat. So all of these things, guys, can be linked to insulin resistance. So the food we eat. Now, let's talk about that. We have basically two choices, right? So there's always choices. This choice that we're going to talk about right now is you can be super restrictive and be like, I'm never eating sugar again. I don't want to do it. That's not me. This is how I'm going to live. And maybe you have the willpower and the strength to live like that. Power, lift your hands. Or you can be like, I'm going to live a real life, and I'm going to understand that the problem isn't so much just that there's some carbohydrates in my life. The problem is we're missing fiber to deal with those carbohydrates. So yes, you're going to deal with the sugar one way or another. Either you're not going to have it at all, or you're going to manage it by understanding that every time you eat a carbohydrate, you need to make sure you have enough fiber. Which one do you guys choose? Do you want to live a real life and just have some fiber to protect you to eat the foods that you love? Or do you want to change your whole diet and be like, I'm never eating sugar again, I'm never having bread again, I'm never doing those things, and live this life of I'm missing out on everything that I love? Which one would you guys choose? For the people who have, you're so welcome, Bonnie. You're so welcome. So again, you guys, the protocol is just found in my profile. And you guys, if you're struggling, you just really, there's a 90-day money back guarantee. I help coach you through it. I have people who text me and call me every day. I had a nice man the other day who was like, hey, Misha, I need to talk to you, nothing urgent. I call him right back. We discuss what the problem was. We discuss what his questions were. He's like, hey, thank you, great. And he got some validation that he was doing things right. He's lost weight. His energy is better. His pain is better. His arthritis is better. Amazing results. And not doing medications to do all this anymore. I'm off of 10 different medications. So you guys try it. If you're suffering, just give it a shot, because it has a 90-day money back guarantee, and you really do need to understand that in the absence of, just doing these crazy things, if you want to live a real life, have birthdays with your family, go out to celebrate, because this is the celebration time of year, right? You get that choice, but I would encourage you to just try the system. It's helped so many people like me. So again, I'm going to show this. So I showed the young man, right? To you guys, I don't have my picture up, but I'm going to show you. We're going to talk about where I was, because this was the start to my journey. Okay, you guys, this was me 2.5 years ago. That was me. I had a walker, I had a cane. I couldn't go up and down stairs. I was in pain all the time. I didn't want to move because every inch of my body hurt. No doctors were figuring it out. They couldn't tell me. In fact, one doctor just said, there's nothing I can do. You're always going to be fat. You're always going to be in pain. You're always going to have brain fog. You're always going to feel this way. And I'm sorry, but your life is just not going to be as long as you thought it was going to be. And there's nothing I can do for you. Okay. So see that face? At that point, I was on 10 different medications. I had tried keto for 10 years. I had done veganism. I had done the berberine and the black seed oil and the kale and the spinach and the lemons and the garlic and the wild blueberries and all the stuff, spirulina, all the stuff. And I was making these crazy shakes, and I still was having problems. And I was watching my sugars, and I was eating clean, and I was trying to do all the right things. Then I stumbled on the system that I talk about, and I was like, you know what? I've got to do something. I can't live like this anymore. And I tried the protocol that I just talked about. Right? Okay. So I lost 55 pounds. I took my A1C from 7.4 down to 5.3. My blood pressure went from being 180 over 150 at some point during every day, about 150 over 110 or higher, most points, somewhere in between those points every day, on 2 different medications, cycling through them to try and figure out how to get my blood pressure down. I'm not on any medications now. Every morning I wake up, my blood pressure is right at 112 over 74, and I've been medication free for 2.5 years. And the only thing I do is a tea in the morning and a fiber before I eat anything. That's it. Now, do I want to worry about taking an injection in my side? Do I want to worry about counting every carb? Do I want to worry about I can't have what everybody else is having? I can't go out and have appetizers and enjoy my friends? No. I have some water. I have some fiber. I shake it up. I drink it. And I go on about my life and enjoy my family, my friends, and my time with them. But all of these things on the side, those are some of the things that I overcame by just doing this protocol. So not only lose 55 pounds, I got rid of my hypertension, my hyperlipidemia, my sleep apnea, heartburn, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, arthritis, leg cramps, skin tags, skin discoloration, my brain fog, depression, all of that. But it's not just me. So I'm going to show you this beautiful young lady, great friend of mine, suffering from anxiety, depression, um, insulin resistance. This belly, by the way, is an insulin resistant belly. That's not all subcutaneous fat. There's a lot of visceral fat there. That's a sign of insulin resistance. She's lost over 50 pounds now and gotten her life back. Her anxiety and depression is much more maintained, and all she's done is this system. Do you have to be fat to do it? Nope. This is my good friend Christy. She is a trainer. She is a bodybuilder. She does all the clean eating. She does all the keto. She does all the weighing and counting, and she still had diabetes because our food is imperfect. So in pre-contest prep or in off season, the picture on the left was her. You could see swelling in her face. You could see swelling in her body. At the same time in her prep, after being on the system, you can see she has more definition. The inflammation is gone. And what she wasn't telling anybody during all that time was she had diabetes. And her doctor had told her, endocrinologist told her, if you don't change things, you're not going to be here in a few years. Endocrinologist didn't tell her how to fix it. She was getting sicker on the inside, feeling like a fraud because here she is. Thank you. Because here she is, coaching people and doing people, and yet she's struggling with this, and she's eating all the right things, doing all the right stuff, and she's still struggling. All she changed was adding the system in and understanding that fiber is key. Fiber is key. So that is all changed, and it gave her life back. So you guys, I'm going to show you where to get it. I'm starting to get messages from people who need help, so I want to go help them too. I do want to show, if I can find this picture and put it up right now. I could, when we talk about the difference it makes. So me, this is two years ago on all those medications. That's my face. That's me. This was on all those medications, not understanding how to manage my insulin resistance. And I don't do crazy skincare routines. I'm not one of those people. I really probably abuse my skin more than I should, but the change it's made in me is completely inexplicably, like, I can't tell you how good I feel. Can't tell you the peace it's given my family because they're not about me. So if during this season you are wanting to make sure that you're healthy and taking care of your family, please consider system. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of things because Misha's on a rant. But before I go and talk about this, I want to tell you this. If you just do a quick Google search, you're going to find all kinds of lawsuits and things starting to come out of these drugs, and why. So there are problems like acute gallbladder disease, biliary disease, gallstones, inflammation of the gallbladder. That's just some of the problems with these medications. So if you want to have your health back, if you want to look thin and have all that, please consider doing a natural system. I didn't get mine up. And just tap profile picture up top, and then you're going to, I do have two profiles. TikTok likes to get mad at me sometimes when I say things that people don't like. But right under there, you're going to see this red light, and then there's a link. Click on that link, and that's going to take you to my profile. And I think that we found my book is what I'm assuming that comment is. You can order the system here, but yes, all of my social media, Twitter, I finally put back on Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, all of that is all here. Facebook group, where you can ask me questions, my contact, and then my recommendations page. Or you're just going to go to the top link. So it's a tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before you eat anything, and you want to make sure that it says Misha Fayant at the top. I'm not sure why that's not showing up correctly right now. And you're going to click on the buy now. Maybe I need to check my link. You'll get 30 tea. You'll get 60 of the pre-meal drink. You do get to choose flavors. I didn't talk about this. The tea, lemon or lemon ginger. Leave it on. And then you can get the apple crush now for the pre-meal drink. The tea you can have hot or cold, and you can take your time drinking it. Ben, this morning, you can, with the apple crush or the orange meal drink, you want to drink that right away, but you just leave it on everything that's selected. If you do the one-time purchase, it's about $159 for if you do the subscription, then it's $154, so you're saved dollars, but you don't pay for delivery. That saves $10, so that's about $15 saved. You can cancel it at any time. You get it, you try it, you're like, it doesn't fit my life, you can just cancel it. You call me and say, hey Misha, how do I cancel it? Or you call customer service, you can't questions asked, you're done. But for all of that, so not only do you save $15, they're going to give you this free hand mixer the first month, which just helps you mix up the tea and the drink. So that's where you're going to find it. Make sure it has my name on the top of it. If it does, then you're going to get a text from me. You're going to get emails from me, get help from me, and we're going to get you feeling better. I'm going to be there with you. Okay. So you guys, I hope that answers questions. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8. Today's a pretty busy day. I was going to try and go, I'll see if I can, I'll go live later, but it looks like I have a lot of questions to go answer. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope I answered some questions, but I do want you to know this. If you're serious about your health, please give it a try. It will probably be one of the best things you have ever done. We have doctors who finally, okay, I'm going to try the system. They tried it, they found health for themselves, and they're saying this is the best seen in medicine in 20 years, and yet it's not a medicine, it's in the PDR. So guys, thank you. And by that WhatsApp, even if you're just like, Misha, I don't know. I don't know if this is me because I didn't do all of that yet this morning. Just contact me, whether you're my client or not. If you need help, you need to understand, let me know, and I'll help you as much as I can. Okay? All right. Thanks, you guys, all for joining in. There's so much information that's hard to do in one day all the time, but I'll be back tomorrow and we'll answer some more. Have a great day, guys.